Hey guys, how you doing? This is the Ryan Dunstan podcast, Words from a Humble King. Thank you for joining us. I have a special guest today, Miss Jameliah
Hello,
from the Hey
hello.
Hub. How are you?
I'm good.
Doing good. Listen, I know that you're an accountant.
I
I
am.
know that you're running a nonprofit.
I do.
And I also know that this is March, which is Women's History Month, right? Am
I
I
think
getting that right?
it's international. Well, I think the day was International Women's Day.
Yes.
And then the month is the
It's
history.
Women's
Yep.
History Month. Yes. So you're making history right now. Do you know that?
I did not. I don't even think about it that way.
We never do when we're trying to strive for impact. And
That's true.
and just to bring some perspective off, from where we are, you have a warehouse of items that you get on a regular basis that serve basic needs. You have items like microwaves,
Blankets,
heaters, mattresses, bikes,
clothing,
clothes.
shoes.
You're like a mini Walmart.
Almost. Yeah.
And you desire to give it away.
To give it away.
What sparked that in you?
So I went through a tough divorce, and after it, didn't financially need like a home or utilities or that kind of thing, but just trying to keep my kids in their extracurriculars. And so we started there. We started with supporting kids to do other things. Like I have a child who, not my child, but like a parent had a child who said, "Oh, my child wants to take cooking classes, but I can't afford it because I'm paying the rent." Or I'm buying these other things. So we were like, okay, well, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And that evolved into being able to supply basic needs, because these things are the basic needs to grow healthy and whole children.
Yeah.
So now it grew into a warehouse. And now the warehouse, we get all these we get all these items in, and our goal is to get it back out into the community to those families that need it most.
Yeah. I tell you what, through the relationship with Unboxing Change, shout out to Unboxing Change.
Yes.
Danielle is great.
She's the best.
We've been able to connect with you, and we plan to do some big things with you coming this summer. And, I think it's wonderful. But I also know that your heart has to be postured a certain way to continue to do this kind of thing. Because like I said, you're an accountant, and you have to earn a living.
I do.
But you have a tremendous amount of giving in your heart. Where do you think that comes from?
I grew up with it. Like my parents, both very giving people. Like when we were kids, we went to church, and I was a part of every youth organization inside that I could possibly be a part of. And then they taught us about giving back. Like if people give to you and pour into you, to always give back. So any organization that I've been a part of, it's always been a mission for me to find a way, whether it be to volunteer or financially give back or support or help them grow, just anything I can do to always kind of give back. And I think that's just what we're supposed to do. As any good human is supposed to support other people and just give back.
Yeah. No, that's most people don't understand that, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't understand that we are humans being,
Yep.
right? We are being,
Yep.
right? Sometimes we have to become, right? That human that is being, whatever we're doing in that season of life, but that thing changes. It's like your perspective on life changes, and you've been able to maintain it. I know you've had some experiences with human beings, humans being difficult.
Yes. Yes. I think everyone has.
Explain to me how you maintain your heart's posture, even though you face, like even now, I mean, I know you don't get to where you are. I tell every person that comes on the podcast that you don't get to where you are without having a certain level of crushing.
Yeah.
That kind of sparks more love that you want to give.
True.
And I know that you mentioned the divorce kind of was a pressure point for you. But elaborate on that a little bit, because most people, man, the passion is not enough when you face some of those obstacles. And I know for myself, even developing the True Kings nonprofit and Dunstan and Associates, and pushing to be a loan officer and trying to become director of community outreach, I go through changes, and personally, I go through changes that are difficult, but normally spark or birth a level of motivation that wants to give even more.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
So for me, I think the spark was my divorce. It was an opportunity to completely do an overhaul on my life. And not that my life wasn't good and that I didn't have two great kids and all of those wonderful things, but it was like, this is an opportunity that I get to do what I want to do. I wanted to shift my life in a way that I was more flexible, could be home with my boys and actually see them grow up, but then also still push into the directions of my purpose. So between faith and my family, they allowed me to do that. So I quit my corporate job during this time of starting this nonprofit, stayed in the accounting world, kept some clients that were amazing through that process, and then just kept pushing forward. And early on, it was tough. When we first started, we were granted access to 8 stores that were going to donate to us. We had no idea where we were going to put them. Yeah. I didn't know anything about warehousing or how to function in a warehouse.
Sure.
But you just push and you learn. I knew it was what I was purposed to do, supporting other people and helping them kind of get to their next level, because that's what I was trying to do in my own life. And that's just where I just push. And I keep every day, I wake up, little prayer, like, all right, Lord, like today's another day. What am I supposed to be pushing towards today? Yeah. And then, and dreaming big.
Dreaming big.
And dreaming big.
Okay, so let's pause right there, because I feel like we got a little depth there, right? Because dreaming big is dope, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be in a certain mindset to be innovative enough to find your ideas and your creativity. But sometimes your circumstances move you around and push you around, and your emotions cloud what those visions are. I know you had to go through that during that divorce. I mean, I know there had to be moments where you're like, man, I don't feel like doing not one thing.
And I gave myself that time to crawl in a hole, and my family loved me enough to make sure everything still ran, and crawl and dealt with it internally. Therapy is amazing. And then started to dream again. And then with those dreams, I had to tell myself, and I constantly tell myself, that none of my dreams are bad. It's just some of them are the right ones in the right direction and some aren't. But you kind of have to throw them all out there and kind of see which one sticks.
Yes.
And sticks with you more so than anywhere else. Like not success stick, but sticks with your person. Like who are you now and what sticks with you? And then you build me personally, I've just built my life around the things that grow me purposefully. So my accounting, I love it. It stimulates my mind and my knowledge, but this nonprofit stimulates my purpose towards other people and supporting other people. So, and then I just keep going like in that direction. Well, how can I teach other people how to volunteer? How do I teach young people how to now know how to not only volunteer, but then also give back by pro bono work?
Yes.
So working with my college as an alumni and seeing how I can push them in the direction of volunteering and financial support and all of those kind of things when they get out of college and now they have these degrees. Well, give back. Yeah,
man, that's awesome. I think I'm actually the same way. I've had some failures. I mean, if anyone listened to season 2, that's all we talked about was my anger, my failure, my changes, and everything that a male has to go through. The feelings that we are not prepared to feel and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I know you felt that rush of emotion during that time. But, were there, first things first, all right? My very first episode of the podcast in season 1 was anger.
Okay.
Now, I felt like my circumstances were pushing me around a bit. Oh, yeah. But I also learned that anger wasn't a part of me, but that it was a secondary emotion that I had to be acquainted with, because it was going to be there and I had to get through it. It was nothing I could do about it, but I could not let it control me.
Right.
Can you speak on some moments where you were just, I know that you took your moments to yourself, but how's mattered to the public? I mean, how's mattered to the ones who are trying to overcome? And I think showing us your highlight reel doesn't really work. I need to know where you went wrong and how you got over the things that were wrong or how you identified as wrong in your life. Can you speak to me about how you've been able to get over anger as your circumstances became monumental in your push to do some of the things that you're doing right now?
Anger was tough because I know right after the divorce, I was angry. Yes. Very much like, how could you do this? Very how could you leave us? How do I figure this out now?
Right.
Single mom, what does this look like? This is not how I planned my life. My parents have been married for years. Like, this is not how this was supposed to go. But I looked at my kids. And
I did too.
And it's like they're looking at me like,
Yes.
okay, you're
and
angry,
you don't know what
but
to
you
do.
need to come back.
Right.
You don't get to go hide. You gotta come back and get this back together.
No choice but to face it.
Yeah, and then even in business, I know we moved into our first warehouse after being in storage for almost a year. We moved in, we were excited, we had open houses, but it just didn't work. So then we ended up having to move out of that space and regroup. Thankfully, the pandemic hit, so it actually was a blessing, but I was angry. Like, no, I'm stepping out and we're doing this, and I put it out to the public that we're here and we're ready. And then it was like, no, you need to take a couple steps back. But now we're in our space now, and it's like, oh, it's blossoming. We're talking about new space. We're buying trucks. Like, it's growing. But we weren't planted in the right place originally. So we kind of had to uproot ourselves and get replanted. I mean, I think so many people have to do that.
Yeah.
They have to be okay when you do put it out there, like, I'm doing this, I'm here, but it might not work that time. Try again. Try again. And then try again.
Yeah. No, yes. I'm with you. And my becoming with a loan officer, the failure. Oh my gosh. Failure's interpretation of my efforts was some of the hardest things I've ever had to get through.
Yeah. And
I think that with an enormous amount of time, it seems like when you get past it, let's speak to this for a second, because what we go through, it seems like when you're in the middle of it, it's so long.
It does. Every time. It just keeps dragging on.
Yes, it seems so long. But when you get through, you learn how that particular time in your life is so small, but it defines so much more character in you, right?
It does.
What are some of the things you did to look past the moments that were designed to hold you still?
Keeping strong people around me to remind me who I was. Like, that's important. Like, your circle. Because when you're down, you need those people to pour back into you to remind you, no, this is who you are. This is what I've seen you do. And then remind you of the things you've already accomplished. Because sometimes we forget, we get so jaded in the moment that we forget to look back and say, wait, like, I've already penned deals with major corporations. I'm in partnerships with people that, who would have ever thought I was in the room? People know my name that wouldn't have known, and I can call on them for help. Like, you don't think about those things when you're in the middle of, well, how am I negotiating this next deal? Or how are we going to pay the rent? And how am I doing payroll? Like, you don't think about those things in that moment, but you keep people around you that remind you, like, Jameliah, we've been here before. You're fine.
Absolutely. Listen. Well, I tell you what, you have an asset in me, and I'll use every resource we have here at the bank to get you what you need, or to attach you to a relationship who can get you what you need. But
absolutely,
you've done a great job, man. And the way we found out about you, the way Hometown Lenders found out about you, the way I found out about you was through the work that you just kept doing. And I was able to participate and volunteer in the latest toy drive that you did, which was extremely huge. Talk to me about how you were able to coordinate those efforts, and talk to me about how you felt like afterward. And I don't even want to graze over, guys, I don't want to graze over the fact that she said that, you have to have people around you. Your circle counts. Because you're right. Mud is mud. It doesn't, when you're in the mud, everything is brown, and you need someone to lift you up so that you do not drown in shallow water.
Exactly.
And I think that's very important, because we are very hard on ourselves sometimes.
We are.
Right. But once you get past those moments, you are able to birth the baby you was holding in that toy drive that I went. I mean, that was just a testimony to how much pain you went through, and how much trauma you've experienced, and how much you've endured. And then you were able to birth something so big and so monumental. I mean, I could not believe how big that toy drive was. And it wasn't just a toy drive. You had resources, and you had a path for people to kind of, it was, I don't know if people ever heard of the drive-through zoo, but you had a drive-through resource center.
We wanted it to be an experience.
Yes. And it was a very big one because every stop that you made along the path that you had created in this toy drive was a resource, man. Tell me how that happened. How did you connect the dots there? And it's so huge. How long did it take for you to build that?
So we've been doing variations of holiday giveaway since we started in 2016. And probably about 3 years ago, we partnered with Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital. Shout out to them. And they do an amazing toy giveaway every year for the children of the hospital or patients that were previously children that were previously patients and their families of the hospital. And the experience of volunteering there with their community director, she was just like, you could do this. I know you could do this. And you could probably do it bigger in the community than what we do. And so it sat in the back of my mind always as something like, maybe we'll attempt it. But I'm like, but it has to serve all of the resources because that's our thing is providing the wraparound, holistically looking at the family. So then when we started planning, it was, okay, so how do we give them everything that they need for Christmas? We want to give them food. We want to give them toys. We want to give them pajamas and books and activities and stuff for them to do as family. Like, how do we do that? And because of the pandemic, everything's been outdoors. So then the next step was really just planning it out so they could drive through and pop-up experience. Like we had snow and we had archways and pop-ups and superheroes. So we wanted them to kind of just really feel good. And it wasn't like a handout. It was more just a helping hand this year.
That was my experience. When we came out to the warehouse, you were gracious enough to allow us to participate in some of the bag stuffing.
We appreciate you.
And we came out to check out your warehouse. Gene was very impressed. Chris was very impressed. And they were very adamant about maintaining this relationship because of what you've been able to build. You've been great. This has been a unique experience for me because I got a chance to see every way that you are willing to help. And now you kind of, and I know we're running out of time, but you've kind of embraced certain ways that you didn't even know you were going to help. Right?
Well, because it's family. And everybody that, at least that's how I look at everybody I work with, your family. So how do we take care of family?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, well, we didn't think about that. But, we'll figure it out and we'll do it.
That's what family
We'll make
does.
it work because family takes care of each other. So it's just finding out what your family needs. Your family's there to support you because you guys all showed up for us. And then, when we call in getting ready for next year or this year, actually, we'll be like, oh, yeah, we're coming because it's family and family shows up.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're coming too, and we're gonna help you do whatever you got to do. Yeah. And I appreciate you for donating your life to this mission. The people are, I'm sure, extremely grateful that you continue to push through. I want you to take these moments to let everyone know how they can get in contact with you. Tell them again who you are and why you love to do what you do, and how they can plan to be impacted by some of the love that you're willing to give them.
So once again, I'm Jameliah Blount. I am the founder and executive director of H.E.Y, which is a redistribution warehouse in Baltimore. But we support all different areas of the state of Maryland, as well as now West Virginia, and Delaware, and PA. And you can reach us on Instagram at Hey Youth Inc., Facebook as well. Our website is www.heyyouth.inc.org. And I just love seeing people getting the things that they need and the relief that comes over them when it's just something off their box. It's just something I don't have to think about. And I can move on to the next thing, and I don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, you mentioned you had some humidifiers that you guys gave out.
I did.
Man, that kids with asthma, they can't afford it.
And it was huge. We had parents that showed up and said, I was just in CVS looking at this $40 humidifier and thinking about was I going to get gas or was I going to get this humidifier? And she was just like, I came here and I got it. No, I don't have to worry about it. Like those are the moments.
You are so dope. Guys, this is Miss Jameliah Blount. It's been very great talking to you. I appreciate this conversation, and thank you for joining us today. Guys, this is the Ryan Dunston Podcast. These are words from a humble king, and we will be back next week with more guests. Thanks.